Yeah.
Congratulations on the film, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, I've missed it at every single festival I've been to over the last couple of what year or so since I played London, isn't it? So
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's
I
really
think
good.
I think the world has missed every festival. You know, like it's a
I
bit
know
of a
it's all.
sad time for me as well. New Zealand was supposed to have a big festival and had to cancel it. So
Oh no,
it's
nightmare.
usually, yeah, it's usually when I catch up on all my sort of films I love.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the film. So I believe it's 8 years in the making. Is that correct?
Mm,
It's taken a little while to get to the screen. So can we just talk about the origins of the film
yeah.
and how it sort of came to be and where the ideas came from and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I was making a short film about at-risk youth, and which is sort of juvenile delinquents who had been convicted of various crimes and were in various at-risk youth programs. And I was talking to them about their lives and connecting with their leaders, and that led to my short film. And then through them met a few adult gang members, and just sort of I was really curious about their lives and situations, and sort of had lots of different one-on-ones with them, usually street gangs rather than biker gangs in New Zealand. And yeah, it was just sort of hearing about how their hidden world worked, because it's not many people in New Zealand actually know what goes on behind those gang fences in terms of structure and just culture and everything, and also their personal stories about their upbringing and how they came to join the gang, and yeah, and I found those personal stories the most affecting.
Sure. And it's just a very clear three structured structure to the film. So you've got obviously
Yeah.
the younger child, where obviously things start to happen that affect him in later life. Was that always the sort of the plan to go with three different periods and as to the structure of the film, and then have damage as sort of the overarching um, character sprinkled throughout?
Yeah, I actually, this is Savage is the third film that I've written in that world. So basically, it was sort of 3 years, 2 to 3 years per script, and that third film, yes, that was the idea at the start was to show the life, how the life from a boy to a you know adult gang member, and those three worlds being the Borstal system, which so many of those gang members came from,
Yes.
and how he got there, and how that shaped him, and then that sort of living on the streets as a teenager, and that sort of that in the 70s when the gang is forming for the first time, and creating yeah, and just sort of forming and forming its identity against other young gangs, and in that adult world, which where I was more interested in the internal conflict, and they're adult men and trying to work out what they want out of life. It's sort of, you get to your 30s and you're sort of like, okay, where am I? Am I in the right place for me? Am I going in the right direction? Yeah.
Cool. And you sort of, it's obviously a fictional story, but you've worked with I think it's the Mongrel Mob and the Black Power gangs. Is that what did you draw from them? What sort of did you just sort of, how was the research sort of conducted really with those two?
So sitting in cars, sitting in McDonald's, sitting in their homes, and just asking them, having conversations with them, which were pretty one-sided because it was me asking a lot of questions, and just, yeah, as I said, hearing how they work, hearing how the gang works, and everything from prospects to what the internal conflicts within the gang are, and and then just trying to find out as much about that world as I can, which sometimes it was them showing me photos and describing, what, their gang houses would look like, and then reading lots and watching everything I could get hold of in New Zealand, which is not a lot actually. So that was one of the struggles, but mostly just finding that reality or the authenticity from talking to people from within that world.
You speak about the authenticity there. I was just about to say it's very, very realistic, and it's one of the great things about the film. And that's a lot down to the casting as well, which I've read that, you've gone and found a lot of non-actors. And I think that was quite a big process in itself. Is that safe to say? Is that correct?
Huge, yeah, huge.
Yeah. So talk to us about that. How did that kind of work?
So I knew I didn't want, this gang to be populated by people who looked like me. Skinny, metrosexual, sort of, latte drinking, young men. Because I've seen enough of, gangs in the 80s, and through different, videos and that sort of thing, to see what they look like. And they are hard and big, like physically, that a lot of them are quite weighty. But it's the hardness that is actually the most important part of it, and something that I was always sort of trying to find. And it's really, really difficult trying to find people who were able to open up enough to actually connect as an as an actor with another person, while also being that naturally hard person. It's these two opposites, and you're trying to find someone who can, walk that line, or thread that needle. And so I knew I wanted to go out to the community, and so we put it on Facebook, looking for people with scars, tattoos, criminal records are okay, are fine, just basically trying to, and it went viral on Facebook, and we had about 8,000 people applying to audition, and then we chose 2,000 of them, predominantly from the North Island, and lots of different cities, and we toured around each city, and me and the casting director would each run a room and just audition non-stop every day, and we saw heaps of people, see a couple of thousand, and from that we found these beautiful, beautifully vulnerable, or men who would come in and take massive risk by they don't know what they're walking into. It's just so, and they must be had a lot of fear, and God, it's fantastic. And some of them gave performances that would, give chills down my neck. And so from that, we were sort of gifted these fantastic actors that, very few of them got cast in main roles, because there's very few roles for them, to be honest. But it meant that the people who were within the gang, the extras, were all actually people who were outstanding actors. And I felt like, that Savage gang really felt, they really came together on set and had this amazing sense of brotherhood.
Yeah. And you've got Jake, obviously, at the front of the film as Damage, is quite an imposing character, literally, visually, and physically as an actor. When did he come on board? Was he kind of one of the first to be cast, and then you sort of went from there, or was he?
No. Yeah, so we auditioned through New Zealand first, and was starting to feel like I hadn't found Damage, and so the idea was mooted about opening up Australia, and I was very skeptical about that. Just I didn't think that would be successful actually at all, and so we had video auditions come in. And, we chose about 8 to see in Sydney, and I flew over there, and and Jake was the standout right from when he entered the room and stalked across to the other side, just sort of walked past me, and he just had this focus and this energy, and he was really commanding and sort of just, you know, really kept, you know, he just took the role. And the interesting thing about Jake is that he actually has a really beautiful heart and soul, you know, and that was really important to me for Damage as well, that he was a sort of a soulful man. So yeah, I felt like he just sort of commanded the role.
He definitely does. I mean, it's very frightening in places, very touching in others. So he's fantastic. And we briefly mentioned it about the theatrical experience. Savage is getting released in cinemas after playing various film festivals, as we mentioned, around the world. How important is it to you as a filmmaker that it does see a big screen rather than a digital release, which we've obviously seen most films released on in the last 6 months, basically?
Yeah, it's a scary time, obviously, with COVID and the threat to the cinematic experience, you know, and if anything, it makes me, you know, I already valued it intensely, and just, you know, when something is sort of threatened, you know, like that, it makes you value it even more. The immersion that you feel in a cinema is what I love as a cinema goer, you know, where the picture washes over you and the sound washes over you, and you're just sort of lost in this world that's created within this three-dimensional space, you know, and the energy of other people you're watching it with, and it's communal. It's a really spiritual experience. And you know, just recently I've been, you know, going back, and we've been rewatching some of, you know, my great favorite films, you know, that have been screening in New Zealand, and it, you know, which I've only ever seen on the small screen, you know, films like Apocalypse Now and Alien, and you know, tomorrow night I'm going to the Big Lebowski, you know, and these are all films that I'd only seen on the small screen, you know, and then you experience them in all their majesty as a piece of art on that huge screen. And God, I love it so much. Yeah.
And what do we see from you next? As my last question, what's the next step after this amazing debut feature?
Well, I have several ideas actually that are sort of competing at the moment, and that's a good problem to have. But I'm just sort of taking my time and letting them percolate and stew, and to see what rises to the top, and to see what grabs me and won't let go, to see what feels the hottest in a way. A sort of when something feels like I probably shouldn't be making it, that's probably when I, you know, get really interested in it. So haven't decided yet, but there's some, I'm feeling that wave of creativity start to hit me again after a sort of a lovely break after Savage, and unfortunately it won't let go of me until I, you know, start writing again. So yeah.
Well, congratulations on Savage. I really loved it. I can't wait to see it again on the big screen. So congrats.
Oh, thank you. Lovely connecting, Paul.
No problem. Thank you. I'm sorry for the carnage in this room. It's absolutely
not. No. Not
it's
at all.
everywhere.
Yeah.